Welcome to episode 174 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers who love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for anyone else who likes going out under the stars. In this episode, we'll talk about what we've been up to this week, and at the end, we'll tell you how you can put your name into the draw for a 2022 RASC Observer's Calendar. How was your week, Shane?
It was okay. I see your second bullet here. Weather has been rather poor. Yes, it has. I think we've been under a shroud of cloud for like at least 7 days now. It's been no opportunity for astronomy.
What's weird though, is I was watching this on Friday because we had this beautiful clear afternoon, and I was like, this is going to be okay. Yep. And then as soon as it got dark, the clouds moved in. And I was up at 6, I think, and I looked out, totally cloudy at 6 a.m. And when I get up and start clean on Saturday mornings and start cleaning the house at 7, the clouds were just moving off. And then it was clear most of the day. And then, maybe tonight's going to be okay. And then soon as we started getting within an hour of sunset, there was this huge cloud bank on the western horizon. Like, nope, here it comes. And it came right in as soon as it got dark. So that was it for any observing.
Yeah, and it came way like a lot earlier. The forecast was saying maybe around 9 p.m. is when we get clouded out. So I thought, cool, I'll get a couple hours in. Yeah. And I did get a little bit in last night, actually, because it just seemed like the northwest end here of the city was just on that edge of the cloud bank. And so like my southern sky completely gone. But if I looked kind of northeast, I did have a little bit of sky. And so I, I tested out the Suitcase Observatory. I basically have all of the components. So I wanted to see how stable it would be. So it really wasn't a real observing session where I was out there, chasing particular objects. It was really just to see, how much vibration do I have? How quickly does it settle? And, a night like last night is not a bad night for that type of test, because when the clouds are just like that close, you could lose the sky at any point. So, those types of nights, I don't get too excited for observing because you're likely not going to get much in.
So really, really quick again, what's the Suitcase Observatory? So what's in there for tripod, telescope mount, and eyepieces?
So the intent here is, it's inspired by the old Quest stars. Well, I guess you can even buy new Quest stars. But the 3.5-inch Quest star would, you would have an option of buying like this leather carrying case that would house the telescope, the eyepieces, and the tripod and the mount. And then the telescope itself has like a built-in Barlow and a built-in white light filter. And one of their advertising schemes is that you basically have like a portable observatory. You can just pick this thing up and you got everything you need for any situation. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to do that with one of my little refractors. And so the refractor of choice right now is the 50 millimeter Borg FL. And so the weight of that thing, so the telescope with the rings, with the dovetail, and the diagonal, and let me think here, the 24 millimeter panoptic, it came to about 1.4 kilograms. So not too bad. Now the mount that I'm using is a little Borg single arm fork mount that weighs about 1 kilogram. So like telescope, mount, all of that stuff is like 2.5 kilos is what it comes to. So super light. The tripod that I chose is a carbon fiber photographic tripod. And I should see the weight of that thing. It probably is about like 2 kilos. So I think I'm around 4.5 kilos in total. And it was really, really good. Like the vibration dampening at high powers was almost non-existent. Like it was there a little bit when you'd adjust focus. And then what I did is I added some vibration suppression pads under the tripod legs, and that almost eliminated it completely. Like the vibration suppression pads really helped out quite a bit.
Yep.
So yeah, I was quite pleased. I was probably only out for maybe 20 minutes or so. So now the next step is to try to fit all this stuff in a case. I want to include my Herschel wedge diagonal as well, so I could do some white light observing. a couple eyepieces, a couple filters. I think I have everything I need then to, have like this. The case that I'm putting it in is like one of those carry-on suitcases essentially, but it's like hard shelled. So it is carry-on. I don't know, regulated size. So I could just pick this thing up and walk onto an airplane with it, which is what I wanted. And, this thing can go anywhere that I go, but also like if I really want like something that's super quick, I can grab that and run out the door and do observing in the backyard or, a short trip out of the city or something like that. I can have it all there ready to go.
Nice. That sounds really cool. Yeah,
I'm excited to play around with that a little bit more. But the biggest part was going to be the tripod. I wasn't sure if I would be satisfied with the vibration because as soon as you put a telescope on a photographic tripod, you can run into problems just because these photographic tripods, they're often overstated, with their capacity, and often too when they do state like a certain loaded capacity. It's like a very condensed weight, right? Because a camera, most of the weight is in the body and the lenses in most cases aren't, super long. Whereas a telescope, what kills them on a photographic tripod is that moment arm or the length of the telescope tube, wreaks havoc on those little tripods. And you often end up with really bad vibration. So anyway, so far so good.
Yeah, I didn't get any observing in. I don't know if you had any other observations to share because I was just, dead in the water here as far as having any clear sky to work with. I think there might have been one night where there was a little bit of clear sky, but I think that was the night it was really cold. I think we had like a -15 night and it was windy as heck. I think it was like -15 and 50-kilometer-hour winds. I'm going to say something like that. It was not good. Yeah, you couldn't observe.
Yeah, I really just played around a little bit in Merak what the heck here? Perseus is where I was. And that little 50 millimeter telescope just surprises me how much star color it shows. The amber stars really seem to pop out in there. And anything kind of bordering in on that reddish spectrum really seems to jump. And I'm not used to that. Normally you need a little more aperture, or at least I've found in my experience, it seems like aperture does help with the star color. And for 50 millimeter, I'm always surprised at what that thing can do.
I'd really like to see that focal reducer on it, the one that I think I sent you a while back. I think it'd be really cool to get that 50 millimeter down to like, I think it ends up taking it to like a 500 or 270 millimeter focal length or 280, something like that. Anyway, it gets fairly quick. Fairly quick, like 5.4 or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen two of them pop up for sale, but they're in the $500 range, and that's just more than I want to spend on that little telescope.
Yeah, I think if you keep watching it, you might find one for about half that, because they were really designed for photographic, like film use, or they're not. Maybe that's incorrect, but I know they're not optimized for modern digital detectors, right? And so I think that it will fall off over the next few years. They've already come down a little bit in price. From time to time, I've seen them for about $350 kind of thing. So
okay,
yeah, I wouldn't mind picking one up myself just to have. I wouldn't mind getting maybe one of the 72s or 71s or something like that at a future point in time. Slap one of those on and take it down to. I think it takes those ones down to like the same focal length, or getting pretty close to it, so you get a nice wide field of view with a decent aperture there. So, but yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be really neat to do. So we were on the Everyday Spacer live stream on Friday night. It was pretty interesting to be a guest for a change. We've had some guests on, but I don't think we've been guests anywhere yet.
No, we haven't. It was pretty interesting. I tweeted it out on Friday, so I think a few of our listeners were able to make it out and see us on the live feed, and a couple of them asked us some questions or had comments, which was awesome. Yeah, it was kind of a neat thing. So if anybody's interested, the YouTube channel is just Everyday Spacer. So if you look that up, you'll find us there. What do we talk about, Chris? I guess a little bit about getting started in visual observing, starter telescopes. trying to think what else we talked about.
And people should know this. It was very late for us at the end of long days. So in both of our jobs, we work at different places. I know, and I know you were kind of in the same boat. Friday ends up being like, I know some places might be more like a holiday, people knock off early, but I know for me, and I know for you as well, Shane, often that's the day of the week that we get out of work at the latest. And that was no exception. And so you go from working pretty late, go home, have dinner, and then I had to kind of sort of quote unquote stay up and do this because it was actually, I think, past midnight for us by the time we wrapped up there. So people should know that when they're like, why are these guys so dopey? Well, yeah, it was getting it was at the end of a long day, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, I fell off the cliff at about, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes into this thing. I started to run out of energy, but it was fun.
Funny. Yeah, it was funny that you sent me a note that said that you were kind of fading a bit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I get that. Like the next day, I was like, yeah, I wasn't even reading text at that point. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep talking. And then when I need to stop, somebody's going to have to tell me.
Yeah. So. Yeah. My favorite question, which we've talked a little bit on air. In fact, Mark asked us about this when he was on, but how come we keep getting smaller and smaller telescopes when, everybody else seems to want larger and larger telescopes?
Yeah. That's the oft asked question. That's probably the most frequent question that we get asked, eh?
Yeah, and I love it because it's an opportunity to talk about little telescopes and just I think it is somewhat unique or a little bit of a different approach anyway to astronomy. So I always enjoy talking about that.
And not unrelated, the second most often question is how do you sort of dress to go and observe in the cold weather that we have? And I mean, those two things are actually related. So we get very cold weather here. I was out the other day or last week when we were observing the lunar eclipse or the partial lunar eclipse. And, it was only like -6, I think it was -12 or -14 with the wind chill. And that was like a beautiful late November morning. That was one of the warmest times that I'd ever observed in November here, which would probably rank cold to moderately cold, at least for most people. So for us, but if you don't have the small scopes to get up really quick and put out and then tear down really quick when you're done, it can be a real impediment to actually setting up and getting started in the first place.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely make those situations a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. So my last astronomy class of the term was last week.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was pretty good. I did 8 weeks, hour and a half each week. So it was different. Usually I do 2 hours, and this time decided to do just an hour and a half, just to make it a little bit easier on me. I find 2 hours can be a bit long at the end of a day, and then as well, I've got some other astronomical responsibilities beyond this podcast too. So I've been starting my work on the 2023 RASC Observers Calendar, where I'll be sort of officially the editor, I suppose, in 2022 calendar that we're giving away. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I was just one of the assistants, really is all I did. I didn't do that much. I just did the planets rising, setting, and the lunar X, and maybe a couple other small things. But this time around for 2023, I'm the person who's responsible for getting everything in there. So yeah, pretty good. So did you take any advantage of Black Friday sales? We get Black Friday a bit here now in Canada. It's sort of a relatively recent thing, but did you get anything on sale?
No. So there's a couple of items that I have my eye on, and first off, they didn't go on sale, so I wasn't tempted. But the TMB Super Mono centrics. So I've got almost all of them in the 4mm through 10mm focal range that they have offered. But they do have a few of the longer focal lengths that I don't have. They have a 12mm, a 16, an 18, and a 21. The 18 and the 21s are like unobtainium. There was only 50, I think, of each one of those made. So they're very, very rare and quite expensive if you ever find one. But the 12s and the 16s, they do pop up occasionally. And this past week on Buy EE, somebody was selling off a whole bunch of TMB Super Monos, like it was like the 6, the 8, the 10, I think the 5, but also the 12 and the 16. So I was quite excited. And I also was not really looking for Black Friday deals because this auction ended this morning. So I knew if I was to get these TMBs, I would be out quite a bit of money. So anyway, I put my bid in, and I bid what I thought was about $150 over market value just to make sure I got these things because I really wanted them. Well, they ended up going for like 150 over my max bid. So like it was crazy actually. So anyway, I didn't get them, and I'm a little disappointed this morning because I really would like to add those to the collection, but at those prices, it's hard to justify. So I'll have to keep watching, and hopefully one will come up for sale. I don't know if that's just the new price of these things, like the old rare eyepieces that are desirable, like the Zeiss Abbey Orthos or the TMB Super Monos, seem to appreciate in price on an annual basis, but not substantially.
Yeah.
But I tell you, this is a big jump in price. So I'm hoping it was just, a few people got into a bidding war and really sent it up. But I guess only time will tell if that is the new price or not.
Yeah, there's an item that comes up frequently that I've been looking for and watching as well. And I think like a fair price would be 400 Canadian dollars or less for one of these items for a reasonably good deal in pretty good condition. And there's I think, it's not that rare. There's 3 or 4 of them on there right now. And I saw one come through yesterday, and I was watching. I thought, oh, this one's in really good shape. And it ended up going for about 800, 900. So about twice what I might have pegged. These are older items. These are items from like the 90s, early 2000s, very early 2000, like literally the year 2000. So I was like, you can buy new versions of this today for about that same price. So it kind of makes you think, well, maybe I just don't need it, or buy a new one, or probably not get it in my case because I wanted to get it because I would get a deal and a good scope. But anyway, not happening. Yeah, I did buy something though.
Yes, you sent me this ominous text of intentionally just, the box was very non-descriptive on the side of the picture that you sent to me.
Yeah.
So what did you get?
Yeah, so I actually didn't get it. My wife bought it for me for Christmas, which is nice. The Pentax 5mm XW, because I found a tremendous deal on it online through an Amazon sale. Like Pentax was having a sale, and then Amazon was having another slightly discounted portion. I was like, this is just too inexpensive not to complete my Pentax set. So I'd sort of been hemming and hawing for like 2 years over which 5mm to get, whether I would get the NAV like you have, or whether I would just complete my set of Pentax 1/4. And so I decided to get that 5mm. So yeah, it arrived on whenever it was. I seen that photo. I think it was Thursday or Friday, whatever it was. So yeah, that was pretty exciting. And we are having a lot of shipping delays here in Canada because there's been a lot of flooding on both coasts. And it wasn't supposed to get here for another 2 or 3 weeks, and it arrived here, I guess, about 3 weeks early. So yeah, that was something.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know you've been wanting a 5mm for a while, so this is a good ad for you. So do you have the whole set now of XWs, or are you still missing the 30?
Yeah, so I won't get the 30 because I bought the 32mm Massiema a couple months ago. So that's really it for me, I think. I've and I mean that completes my sort of 1/4 inch XW set, or having all the XWs plus the Massiema instead of the 30mm. And so that set took me, I now can say I have an eyepiece set, which is kind of something I always thought I probably would have. Took 13 or 14 years to do the set. I think there's I think it's like 7 eyepieces or something like that. It's basically a new eyepiece every 2 years, people, for those that are keeping score. I'm not buying that many eyepieces. So I end up buying 2 this past, I guess, term or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of it for me, I think. I need to clean some of the older ones, though.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of grime building over the years.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit. But yeah, I'm excited to have the 5. So the 5 is by Rico or however you say it, which is the company that had bought Pentax, and they'd bought Pentax and then they discontinued some of the eyepieces. And I think at one point they had discontinued all the eyepieces, and then they did eventually re-release them all. And it does look a little bit different, not that different, but a little bit different. And then the other thing is that I was really curious to try the new version versus like having all the older versions. So I'm going to say that the plastic on the newer version looks a little bit darker. Like, so in the photos, they all look black, but the older ones have almost like a bluish tint to them. And this one doesn't quite have that very, very faint bluish tint, but the glass looks really good. And, according to all reports, they're essentially the same eyepieces. So, I'm excited to have it. The other thing is that, when I was looking at getting other eyepieces and all the other eyepieces that I was considering were more expensive. And so that definitely weighs in, and some of them quite a bit more expensive. So I didn't want to spend the money. And then when the Pentax came on, which is a brand that I know, love, and am familiar with for much less than anything else I was looking at, I'm like, well, this is just the eyepiece I really should get anyway. So yeah, so there's that.
Yeah. And if anybody's looking to add some top-notch eyepieces right now, and if you have a telescope that's probably about f6 or slower, these Pentax XWs right now are such a steal. Like, they're on sale right now, the whole range, I think, which is nuts because just about every other eyepiece maker is increasing prices or already has. Like, Baader increased the Morpheus. I think Teleview had like a flat increase across every line.
Yep.
I think Explore Scientific had a pretty big increase not too long ago. So, with everybody increasing their prices, the fact that, Pentax lowered theirs is like such an opportunity right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it is pretty wild that they went that road. And that was the other thing, like in that context, that not only are they lowering their prices and they're cheaper. The one that I bought was cheaper than I've ever seen a new Pentax XW in the 12 or 13 years since I bought the first one. But also, everything else has gone up. So you're like, well, so this is not only that much cheaper, it's again that much less expensive, So thinking about it like in sort of today's dollars, compared to dollars from 12 or 13 years ago, I mean, this is a really, really good buy on an eyepiece. And why the Pentax? Well, they don't have the widest field of view, for sure. These are not, they're mid wide field eyepieces. They're 70 odd degrees. I think like tests come out that there's some minor variances, but really they're 70-degree eyepieces. But to me, I don't find that much of a jump between a 70 and an 80 degree. I notice I have a 84-degree Doctor 12.5, and I do notice more of a jump to that one because it's 84 degrees over the 70. But even that, the Doctor is fairly good to look through, but honestly, it's not quite as comfortable to look through as the Pentax eyepieces. The Pentax eyepieces are absolutely the most comfortable to look through out of anything I've tried. And that's just my own personal experience, and I know everybody varies, but that's why I like them. You can stick them in, and you can really get that full 70-degree field of view, and it's very comfortable. You can sit there, and it's a very relaxed, observing experience, which I kind of really place a high value on. So, it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. They are super comfortable. Cause I've looked through yours multiple times. The only complaint I really have about them is the top cap, like just the way the eyepiece is designed. It doesn't really hold the top cap very well. Cause I used to have a Pentax XL, XL, which was the series that predated the XWs and essentially the same design. Just the XWs have better optics slightly. Just that stupid cap would always come off, but that's a small gripe for such a good eyepiece. Yeah,
so I think the newer ones, I think it stays on a little bit better. And I'll say this I'll say this about the caps, and this is definitely an added benefit, is that I think with a lot of other lines, as you traverse, especially from, well, here we're talking about 40 millimeters through to 3.5 millimeters to make a 40, a 30, a 20, a 14, a 10, a 7, a 5, and a 3.5. And of which I have all of them except for the 30s. Now you can go and read reviews on these. The 20 and the 14 don't work as well sort of in telescopes faster than about f5, like in my own personal experience, unless you have a paracore corrector in your reflector. But typically you're going to have it in there anyway. So I kind of think that they work pretty well in most telescopes, but there's a bit of curvature that can be introduced, I guess, in the 20 and the 14 that some people find unacceptable. And I can understand that. The rest of the line, especially the 10 through the 3.5, are really, in my opinion, kind of like perfect eyepieces. But you can trade the caps. So, when I have them out, I don't have to worry about finding such and such a cap for this eyepiece. I can just sort of take the caps off, or if I get them mixed up, there's no big deal. Like, they all are interchangeable. So I do like that. And I think in the newer design, I never had any XLs, but I do know somebody, actually the person, Paul from the Halifax Center, introduced me to the Pentax line. He had the XLs, and that's when I fell in love with them. But I know that the newer design is just a slight improvement on that as far as the way the caps fit. So the caps fit quite well on the newer ones. They don't tend to fall off. I've never had them fall off by accident or anything. They work quite well.
Cool. The other thing too that's awesome about them is the eye cup adjustment. So if you have it all the way down for an eyeglasses wearer, that's fine. But they basically unscrew to raise the cup up if you're not wearing glasses. And it is just a much better design, in my opinion, than a lot of the recent TeleVue stuff that I've been trying, like with the Delights. Like that push-pull system that they have with tensioning just drives me nuts because it just doesn't stay set. And what I was finding with the Delights is I would tension that thing about as hard as I could turn it, and still like putting the caps on. Like if the cap wasn't, if it was just off to the side and you put some pressure on it, you would squeeze together the raised eye cup, and you'd have to readjust it again. Whereas with the Pentax screw, that just unscrew it or screw it in, it just works way better. You sort of set it, and it's not going to move on you at all.
Yeah, I've actually never really adjusted mine. I find that however they've designed them in the factory all the way down, like is how they arrive. And for eyeglass wearers, to me, that's pretty much ideal. I think it's actually ideal. I've never found it less than perfect. So I've never turned the caps on anyone. Actually, they may not even turn for all I know.
Yeah. And some people may look at these and say, ooh, 70 degrees, that's not really a wide field eyepiece. Me personally, that is like the sweet spot of all eyepieces, like you get into the 50 and 60 degree eyepieces, and you definitely feel a little constricted when you're looking through them. But if you get into the 80s, it's like it is a nice field of view, but it's more than what my eye takes in just looking ahead and somewhat to the peripheral. Like, to see the 80 plus degree field, your eyeball is looking all around to see that. Whereas like 70, so like the Panoptics fit into this category too, because they're 68 degrees. I just find that to be perfect. Like I can see that whole field. It's a big field, and it's just a lot of fun to use.
Yeah, you don't have to work for it, I think is sort of the takeaway from it. And that's big. So for example, when I put the Pentax in, I get the 70, that's what I got. It's really easy to keep things in that field. And it's relatively easy to pan around, even though it's a little bit smaller than maybe something like my Doctor. But like with the Doctor, I'm probably getting just over 70 degrees, like if I'm just like sweeping or not really paying that close attention. But yeah, then when I want to really focus on something, I can kind of orient myself to get that full 84 degrees, which is then awesome. But you're not getting it all the time, for sure. Whereas with the Pentax, you're always getting that 70, and it's really locked in and an awesome, spectacular field of view, in my opinion. And I think they did just an excellent job of them.
Wow, this is turning into an unexpected Pentax XW review episode.
Yeah. Well, I've spent those the eyepieces I've used the most. And to be honest, like in my comparison and using lots of other eyepieces over the years, I've never really felt clearly like strong enough to go and either sell them or get something else. And every time I go out and even think about that, and then I plunk them in, I'm like, yeah, like that's the ticket. Now sort of to balance this out, if people are looking for more affordable ones, and they don't need as much eye relief, like if you're not a glasses wearer, I think that like those Mead used to make them, maybe they still do. And I know Explore Scientific and Celestron and others have these 82-degree field of view eyepieces. And in some instances where I'm not going to be wearing glasses, and I want a less expensive eyepiece, maybe for public outreach or something, I have some of those, and I think those are excellent eyepieces, and I think often can be had for like around $120 Canadian or something like that when you can find them on sale. And sort of just to kind of round this out. But anyway, I think the Pentax is the way they are. Is probably the best bargain for what you can get in a mid wide field eyepiece. Anyway, that's sort of my bit on Pentax. Don't have anything else to add on that one, Shane.
No, I think we covered it all. They're right. Really good eyepieces.
So I did get another book. This is a book that I've been wanting to get for an awful long time. I've been scouring for it. It's a little bit obscure. It's called Hartung's Astronomical Objects for Southern Telescopes by David Frew and David Mallon. So I've been trying to hunt this one down and could only find secondhand copies, and they were actually fairly expensive. I think good copies were going to be around like maybe like $100 American or Canadian plus or minus for the shipping. And typically they were not the newest edition or the edition I was looking for anyway, which is I think like the second or third edition or something like that. Anyway, it's got a nebula and some clusters and that on the cover. The other ones didn't have this nice cover. It's soft cover. So I'd actually asked my friend Randall. We've had Randall on the show before, and I asked him to kind of keep an eye open to see like if he ever came across one that was this edition in good shape. I wanted to get it, so just let me know and I'd go and get it. But in sort of pristine condition, shipping in, I didn't want to pay more than $100 for it. I just, I kind of think it should be head for less than that. And often those ones in that condition were running at about twice that. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just never going to get it. And then the other day, maybe it was just under a week ago, Randall wrote me and said that Melbourne University Press had the rights to it and they had started printing it out. I don't know when it was exactly, but somebody on Cloudy Nights had prompted them to do this, and that you could pick up a copy for like $50, 50 Australian dollars. And I didn't even look at what the exchange rate was, and shipping was about 30 Australian dollars. And I'm like, well, I guess we'll find out. I figure maybe, it's going to be plus or minus, but the whole thing, everything in ended up being about $80 Canadian. And so it's a brand new book, brand new from the publisher, for $80 Canadian shipped. And so if anybody else is looking for Hartung's Astronomical Objects for Southern Telescopes, like I was for a long time, you go to Melbourne University Press. It's their own shop on their own university website. And you just order the book direct from them. And I don't know whether they have a few in stock and then they just ship you one, or whether they have to run it off, or however they do it exactly, let you know when it arrives. But it was less expensive than a used copy was for the latest edition. So fingers crossed. Let's see what it looks like.
I think I'll order that. And it's kind of interesting timing, because we've been getting asked, excuse me, by a few listeners via email, but also on that live YouTube show Friday night, just if we talk about anything in the Southern Hemisphere. And admittedly, we said, no, we don't. We really focus more on the Northern Hemisphere because that's where we live and observe, although we do touch occasionally on some of the crossover constellations that, kind of hover around our horizon, which would be, Southern Hemisphere targets too. We just don't. And I certainly have a big interest in Southern Hemisphere objects. And I think I will order this book. I guess maybe. Oh, sorry, Chris. Why is this interesting?
No, go ahead.
Why has this one been on your list for so long? What appeals to you?
This is sort of like, it's sort of like the definitive guide. And when you're reading like Stephen Amira or Sue French or anybody else who's been writing about the visual observing and what you can see through various size instruments, I think like even Brian Skiff in their book, they all refer to this. So it seems like the ultimate reference for the southern sky. And then today, actually one of the universities in New Zealand reached out to my wife to chat about doing some collaborative work. And I think the ultimate goal of that collaboration is a trip down to New Zealand, which would allow me to hitchhike onto for the cost of a plane ticket. I might be able to spend a couple of weeks in New Zealand under their dark skies. So kind of fingers crossed, maybe that's going to happen. Maybe as early as the new year. So we'll see what happens there.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, we'll see. That's a long shot for me to make all those arrangements. But we'll see what happens.
You may need a Suitcase Observatory, Chris.
I may. Yeah, no, I'll be shipping something down for sure. Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. Or maybe meeting up with other amateurs down there. If we have any listeners in New Zealand, reach out. I'll be making plans sometime next year. Maybe. I hope. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I've got a lot of projects for astronomy on the go, and it could squander my plans pretty easily. So anyway, go ahead.
I have nothing to add.
Oh, my mount is coming back Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of lightweight portable mounts for a Suitcase Observatory. So heard back from Skywatch there the week before last, and they sent me the tracking. It's scheduled to be here. So yeah, looking forward to it. So someone's going to be home that day, and we'll bring it in and give it a test out. And then Randall, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, he wrote me, and a few years ago we had done a collaboration between I guess there was probably about 5 or 7 of us. I can't remember everybody. But there was a small group of us who did a presentation at one of the General Assemblies at the RASC on sort of celebrate the 150th year of the RASC, which was a few years ago now. But Randall's been sort of working up all of our papers and presentations and that, and collaborating with everybody on the team to actually produce a book. And he sent me my chapter on Friday. And so I actually put my calendar work on hold for Saturday and actually spent it reading this great chapter. So he's kind of taken my notes and presentation and then sort of worked them together into I guess an 8 or 9 page chapter for this book. So I'll let people know when that comes out. I think it's going to be coming out next year. And it was really cool. He's a tremendous writer. And so kind of taking my notes and some of the other stuff and sort of working it together was really, really neat to see. So I really appreciate him doing that. Very cool.
Yeah, that is really neat. I'm excited for that. I do enjoy these historical books about astronomical societies. There's often so many stories to tell throughout the years, even if it's just reading like meeting minutes and getting a sense for like kind of the environment or the atmosphere around astronomy at that period in time is super cool. And then when you layer in some photographs of club meetings or club observing, it's quite fascinating. Maybe just a little sidebar story about that is our local club, the Regina Astronomical or Regina chapter of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Our previous members, like I would say probably in the 40s or 50s, somewhere around that time frame, were super active with meteor counts. And, whenever there was a meteor shower, it was a real big event here. And there was a lot of organization that went into it, and people would lay on the ground with like kind of in a spiral wheel sort of shape with their heads pointed towards the center. And they would have like a portion of the sky that they were responsible for. And they would just count the amount of meteors they saw in the sky. And they would call out meteor, and somebody was recording the timing. And it was really neat to see how they contributed to science back then. And then they would submit their observations and anyway, I love those kinds of stories because some of that stuff has fallen off over time. Like we don't do that anymore here at the Regina Center. And, in some cases it's too bad because that's kind of a neat thing to do.
Yeah. No, really neat. Really neat. Yeah. I think people enjoy it. I mean, I'm definitely kind of like the least experienced person in all this. Some of the people are like anthropologists and stuff like that have like given a really interesting analysis of what it is to be a member of an astronomy group. So I think it's something that's going to be right up your alley, Shane. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure.
Yeah, cool. Now for the calendar giveaway, we've had a few entries so far, so chances are high you could get a calendar. I just want to say, if people want to enter the draw, be sure to put that you are entering the calendar draw, because I did get a few emails, and I'm not sure if people are entering the draw or not, or just sending us emails about their own observations, because you do get lots of those. So make sure it's clear that you want to enter the RASC 2022 Observers Calendar Draw, and that's what you're submitting for. So unless we've received that sort of specific, then people's names sort of won't go into the pot. So you just need to send us some observations, can be long or short. We had a really cool observation from Stephen. I'm just going to read it really quick if we have time, Shane.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So Stephen says, greetings, Chris and Shane. First off, I want to thank you and tell you how much I enjoy your podcast. Yeah, thanks so much, Stephen. I take a long walk around the neighborhood and I listen to your back issues almost every day. Recently, I listened to your Minor Planet and Asteroid podcast. I was zeroed in on your discussion of series. At the end, you mentioned a contest to win a 2022 astronomy handbook. So this is the calendar. We might do a handbook giveaway. I haven't received my handbooks yet, so we'll see. And so he said he wanted to share an image that he took as he was inspired by the discussion. And this is a very recent mashup of two CCD images taken 3 hours apart that shows Ceres romp near the Hyades. And I hope you will consider this as my entry in your contest. I look forward to your future shows. You're a pleasure to listen to. Thanks, Stephen. He's in Massachusetts. And then he sent us this, like, I got to say, if I had thought we would receive an image like this, I would have got another calendar to make sure I sent one to Stephen, because this is absolutely amazing. He sends us this image of a star field, and it looks like a discovery image, like the discovery of Pluto, where you have it at one point and then another image of it at another point. And you can really see like this is the same object sort of moving amongst the stars. And then he labeled them 9:30 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. And I got to say, this was just absolutely phenomenal to see. This looks like something you would get in a textbook or something like that. It's just sort of beautifully presented with a gray border and everything. It just looks super, super awesome. So I was super thrilled to see this, Shane. I don't know what your thoughts were. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, no, it blew my mind when I opened that email. The image is, yeah, it's a great image, and I love the presentation of Ceres, like 2 dots, and like you said, labeled. And it does give me an appreciation too for why you probably want to observe this, on multiple nights, because the movement over 3 hours is obvious in the photograph, but visually it would be pretty hard, I think, to pick that up. However, if you gave Ceres another night, I think the movement then would be more apparent.
I gotta say, what really surprised me is kind of what you hinted at there, Shane, is that how much it had moved in those few hours. Like, I'm not sure how many arc seconds this was, but it's noticeable that this is the same object and that it has sort of traversed a little bit of the star field. And I was just like, you can really see that it has moved a significant amount. I thought, somebody who is using a pretty big telescope with decent power, if they went out at dusk here, and you'd probably be able to get it at about I don't know, maybe 6:30 in the evening, and then it's going to sort of be on the other side of the sky, maybe at about 4 a.m. or maybe even like 5:30 a.m. Made me think, man, you would stand a pretty good chance of seeing that motion if you drew the fields over the course of even just one night. So I don't know if it's just because it's so close to us now or what, but I was surprised how much motion he captured there.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive. I can't remember. I said on that episode where we recorded about Ceres, I mentioned how quickly it moves. I thought it was like 10 to 20 arc seconds per hour. Was like kind of an average for the asteroids in that region, but I can't remember for sure. I'd have to go back and check my notes.
Yeah, well, definitely that showed up here. So, well, I think that comment is what probably spurred Stephen and a few others. We had a few other emails on this. Received another image from Filippo down in Brazil, and I don't know if it was through his telescope. He had one naked, like sort of a zero power shot from his camera, and he actually just sort of pointed out Ceres, and he also had like Orion and everything else. When I first looked at it, I was like, something is really weird with this image of the Hyades, and it was upside down, of course, because he's in Brazil, right? So and then he had the upside down image of Orion too, which was super cool to see. So anyway, well, anything else to add, Shane?
That is all, Chris.
All right. Well, thanks, Shane, and thanks everyone for listening. If people want, we really appreciate getting some reviews. I was looking at, we don't have many reviews. Our reviews are too few, and so we'd really appreciate people going on to wherever they listen to our podcast and leaving us some positive reviews. That would be awesome. And we're always excited to receive feedback or other listener emails, like entering our podcast calendar giveaway. And you can email us at actualastronomy@gmail.com. Thanks, Shane, and thanks so much to everybody for listening.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.